never imagined becoming the architect of a corporate titan's downfall. For 20 years, I dedicated my life to the refined art of fragrance creation, building a reputation for exceptional precision and an almost supernatural ability to deconstruct scents. They call people like me a nose in the industry. Not the most flattering nickname, perhaps, but in my world, it signifies the highest level of respect and recognition of rare talent. My name is Sebastian Hartwell. At 45, I've created signature scents for A-list celebrities whose faces grace magazine covers worldwide and consulted for luxury brands whose elegant bottles adorn the vanities of the wealthy across the globe. My ability goes beyond simple appreciation. I can detect a synthetic bergamot note from across a crowded room and identify which specific region in Italy produced the natural version simply from its molecular composition. My palette isn't merely refined. It represents millions in value to the right client and has earned me a comfortable life in Manhattan with my wife of 18 years. That's precisely what made Doug Ford's public humiliation of me so unexpectedly devastating. The memory still makes my jaw clench with residual anger whenever it surfaces in my mind. The invitation arrived on expensive cardstock with embossed blue lettering. Ford Consumer Products requested my presence at the Plaza Hotel for the launch of their new luxury edition home fragrance collection. Initially, I tossed it aside with a dismissive snort. Ford made mass-market products that assaulted the senses with crude approximations of natural scents. Their idea of forest pine resembled industrial floor cleaner more closely than anything found in nature. "Sebastian, you should go," my wife Inez said that evening, watching me over the rim of her wine glass as I complained about the invitation. She chopped herbs with the same precision I used when blending notes of amber and sandalwood. Her movements efficient from years of professional kitchen experience. "These people manufacture air fresheners that smell like chemical warfare," I replied, swirling my own glass of Bordeaux. "Their idea of luxury probably involves extra aldehydes in a shinier plastic container." Inez fixed me with that penetrating stare that had intimidated countless sous chefs in her restaurant kitchen. "It's good publicity. Besides, they're obviously hoping for your endorsement. Take it as a compliment." Inez, my foundation for almost 2 decades, runs one of the most respected restaurants in the city. Her understanding of public relations surpasses mine considerably. Her sense of taste matches my sense of smell and refinement and professional development. We're something of a sensory power couple, though neither of us would ever employ such a ridiculous description of our partnership. Their marketing department probably just added me to a list of industry professionals without understanding what I actually do. I grumbled, but I recognized the wisdom in her suggestion. In our respective industries, visibility matters significantly. I drafted a cordial acceptance email that evening. The launch event transformed the Plaza Hotel's grand ballroom into a shrine to Ford Consumer Products' signature blue and white branding. Crystal chandeliers glittered overhead, while display tables showcased the new collection with theatrical lighting. Wild orchid, Tuscan lemon, alpine mist, Madagascar vanilla, and other exotic-sounding varieties that promise to transport the average American household to realms of olfactory paradise previously accessible only to the wealthy elite. The crowd consisted primarily of retail buyers in conservative business attire, social media influencers clutching their phones like appendages, and journalists scribbling in small notebooks. I stood toward the back with Inez, who looked magnificent in her chef whites. She'd come directly from lunch service at her restaurant, and I appreciated her making the considerable effort to support me. Doug Ford himself commanded the stage, every inch the corporate titan in his perfectly tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than what many of his customers earned monthly. At 52, he projected the confidence of someone who had transformed his grandfather's modest soap company into a global empire of cleaning products, air fresheners, and personal care items through ruthless efficiency and an almost religious devotion to profit margins. Our new luxury edition represents a paradigm shift in home fragrance. His voice resonated through the professional sound system. These aren't just air fresheners, they're affordable indulgences, an opportunity for every American household to experience true luxury without the prohibitive luxury price tag. The audience responded with appreciative nods and scattered applause. The presentation continued with slick marketing videos showing attractive families experiencing apparent ecstasy from smelling their living rooms. I suppressed an eye roll when one woman in the video actually shed a tear while experiencing Madagascar vanilla. We've invited several distinguished guests today, Ford continued after the video concluded, scanning the crowd with practiced charisma, including Sebastian Hartwell, one of America's leading perfume creators and fragrance consultants. A spotlight suddenly found me in the crowd. Inez squeezed my hand encouragingly as faces turned in my direction. Sebastian, would you honor us by joining me on stage? I'd greatly value your professional assessment of our wild orchid scent, the crown jewel of our new collection. I hesitated instinctively. Something about Ford's too-perfect smile triggered a warning sensation. Inez gently nudged me forward. Go on, she whispered supportively. Just be diplomatic. That moment represents the last time I'll ever ignore my instincts in favor of social politeness. On stage, Doug Ford's handshake felt overly firm, the grip of someone consciously attempting to establish dominance. His camera-ready smile never reached his calculating eyes. He handed me an admittedly elegant glass bottle, certainly more sophisticated than their usual plastic containers, but still unmistakably mass market in execution. What expert assessment can you offer, Sebastian? Our development team believes this perfectly captures the essence of wild orchids in bloom. I followed professional protocol, spraying a measured amount onto the testing paper provided. One inhalation revealed everything. My trained nose immediately detected harsh synthetic aldehydes alongside a cocktail of cheap chemical compounds designed to approximate floral notes while falling catastrophically short of authenticity. Beneath it all lurked that unmistakable artificial sweetness that mass-market products employ to mask inferior ingredients. Like putting ketchup on overcooked steak. The audience watched expectantly. Video cameras recorded from multiple angles. Doug Ford maintained his unwavering smile while waiting for my endorsement. I could have offered empty praise. Perhaps professional prudence should have guided me toward meaningless platitudes about interesting composition or bold choices. But 20 years of training and professional integrity created a barrier against such dishonesty. It's certainly an interpretation, I began carefully, aware of the microphone amplifying my assessment throughout the ballroom. Though I must acknowledge that the primary compound present consists of synthetic aldehydes that only approximate floral characteristics. I detect no actual orchid extract or natural equivalent. Ford's smile tightened almost imperceptibly at the corners. Well, of course, Sebastian. At our accessible price point, we leverage modern chemistry to create affordable luxury for everyday Americans. I understand commercial constraints completely, I continued with measured professionalism. However, marketing this as wild orchid creates somewhat misleading expectations. What you've formulated represents more accurately a generic floral approximation with prominent synthetic undertones, rather than anything specifically orchid-related. The ballroom grew uncomfortably quiet. Camera flashes intensified. I noticed several influencers recording the exchange on their phones, sensing imminent conflict worthy of their followers' attention. That's when Ford's superficial congeniality transformed entirely. His smile remained fixed while his eyes hardened into something coldly calculating. Oh my, we have a genuine poet among us today. He laughed into the microphone, turning toward the audience with theatrical amusement. Listen, Sebastian, I respect your artistic approach to fragrance assessment, but my customers, they're hardworking families from Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, everyday Americans between the coasts. They don't require Parisian complexity or what perfumers call heart notes or dry-down profiles. They simply need their homes smelling clean and pleasant at prices that don't require a second mortgage. Laughter rippled through the audience. I felt heat rising in my face as the crowd's amusement built at my expense. And regarding business fundamentals, Sebastian, Ford continued, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone that somehow still projected perfectly through the sound system. Last fiscal year, my supposedly inferior, chemically approximate air fresheners generated more revenue than the entire niche perfume industry combined. Perhaps my pragmatic approach carries some legitimate business merit. Wouldn't you concede? More substantial laughter followed. Then Ford delivered his calculated killing stroke. He turned deliberately toward where Inez stood near the stage. Mrs. Hartwell, you operate a restaurant, correct? One of the finest in the city according to critics. I certainly hope your culinary creations taste significantly better than your husband's misguided opinions on consumer product business strategy. The audience erupted in laughter. Cameras flashed frantically. Inez's expression shifted from shock to thinly veiled fury on my behalf. I stood frozen, professionally humiliated before hundreds of industry professionals and, far more painfully, in full view of my wife. Thank you for your candid assessment, Sebastian, Ford concluded dismissively, delivering a patronizing pat to my shoulder. Everyone, please enjoy the remainder of our event. Product specialists stand ready throughout the venue to answer any questions about our exciting new collection. I descended from the stage feeling physically unsteady, my professional reputation suddenly seeming as cheap and artificial as the chemical concoction still clinging to the test strip clutched in my hand. Inez intercepted me at the bottom of the steps, her eyes blazing. What an absolute jackass, she whispered fiercely, taking my arm. Complete unprofessional behavior. Let's just leave immediately, I muttered, uncharacteristically struggling to maintain composure. My hands trembled slightly with adrenaline in humiliation. Sebastian, don't allow him to... Not here, Inez. Please. The drive home passed in uncomfortable silence. Inez understood me well enough to provide space when I needed psychological distance. My mind raced with all the clever retorts I should have delivered, all the ways I could have defended my expertise without appearing elitist or disconnected from ordinary consumers. By the time our car entered our building's underground parking, my humiliation had crystallized into something far more dangerous: determination. He cannot behave that way without consequences, I finally stated as we entered our apartment overlooking Central Park. He cannot simply dismiss decades of specialized expertise for cheap audience approval. Inez immediately began pulling ingredients from our professional-grade refrigerator. Her established method for processing stress involved immersive cooking. What specific action do you intend to take about it? I haven't formulated a complete response yet, but something significant. Whatever strategy you develop, consider me fully committed, she replied, chopping an onion with concerning efficiency that reflected her emotional state. That man requires a substantial lesson in professional courtesy. Sleep proved elusive that night despite expensive Egyptian cotton sheets and our carefully climate-controlled bedroom. Around 3 a.m., I carefully extracted myself from bed to avoid disturbing Inez and retreated to my home office. One wall displayed hundreds of meticulously labeled vials, my personal scent library developed over decades. Another contained leather-bound books covering chemistry, botany, and comprehensive perfume history dating back to ancient Mesopotamia. I activated my computer and began systematically researching Ford consumer products with forensic thoroughness. The company represented a genuine commercial behemoth, with annual revenues exceeding $8.6 billion, according to their latest financial statements. Their ubiquitous products occupied shelves in virtually every grocery store, pharmacy, and retail chain across North America and increasingly throughout international markets. Doug Ford had assumed control from his father 20 years earlier and aggressively expanded the company's market dominance through strategic acquisitions and relentless cost-cutting measures that prioritize profit margins above all other considerations. One investigative business article particularly captured my attention. Ford Consumer Products implements aggressive synthetic fragrance reformulation to maximize shareholder value. The detailed piece explained how the company had systematically reformulated nearly their entire scented product line to incorporate cheaper synthetic alternatives, primarily various classifications of aldehydes and artificial compounds. The controversial transition had reportedly generated over $43 million annually in manufacturing cost reductions while maintaining virtually identical retail pricing. I leaned back contemplatively in my ergonomic chair, professional knowledge activating. Aldehydes represented notoriously unstable chemical compounds when improperly stabilized. In high-end perfumery, we employed them judiciously and with specific stabilizing agents. If Ford similarly reduced expenses in stabilization protocols as well, an elegant concept materialized, not merely an idea but a comprehensive strategy for proportional response. The following morning, I informed Inez about needing to conduct some specialized shopping expeditions. What variety of shopping necessitates wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap? She questioned with visible skepticism, observing my uncharacteristic attire. The kind where I prefer avoiding recognition as the perfume expert who suffered professional humiliation from Doug Ford, I responded while adjusting the unfamiliar hat. The incident video already circulates virally across multiple platforms. She grimaced sympathetically. I observed several versions online. The comment sections contain particularly vicious assessments. Thank you tremendously for that encouraging update, I replied with pointed sarcasm. Do you intend to share your developing strategy? I hesitated briefly. Not completely yet. However, I'll definitely require your specialized assistance eventually. She nodded without requesting further explanation. Whatever specialized support you need, consider it guaranteed. I dedicated the entire day visiting numerous retail establishments throughout Manhattan, systematically purchasing every available product from Ford's new luxury edition collection. By evening, our guest bathroom contained multiple samples of wild orchid, Tuscan lemon, alpine mist, Madagascar vanilla, and their 6 additional supposedly luxurious fragrance varieties. I also acquired several of their standard product lines for comprehensive comparison analysis. My home laboratory lacks certain sophisticated equipment available in professional facilities I utilize for commercial projects, but it contained more than adequate resources for my investigative requirements. Throughout the subsequent week, I conducted exhaustive analysis of Ford's entire product range. As initially suspected, they universally incorporated similar foundations of synthetic aldehydes, with only minor proprietary variations creating different scent profiles. More significantly, they had indeed implemented minimum stabilizer concentrations. Sebastian, you've barely emerged from that laboratory in nearly 8 days, Inez observed while delivering fresh coffee during my extended analysis. What precisely are you attempting to establish? I displayed my comprehensive technical notes and explained the underlying chemistry principles. These compounds demonstrate barely adequate stability parameters. They're utilizing absolute minimum stabilizer concentrations required for passing baseline regulatory requirements, which specifically indicates it conclusively demonstrates that under particular environmental conditions, these aldehydes could potentially decompose into entirely different molecular compounds. Compounds that would smell nothing remotely resembling wild orchid or Tuscan lemon, but instead produce potentially repugnant olfactory results. Inez processed this information thoughtfully. What specific environmental conditions would trigger such transformation? That represents precisely what I'm systematically determining through experimental protocol. The critical breakthrough emerged 3 days later, almost serendipitously. I had been methodically testing various environmental factors, temperature variations, humidity levels, ultraviolet exposure, when I noticed something remarkably unexpected in a sample. Positioned near a partially open window, a small patch of naturally occurring mold had developed on the windowsill during recent precipitation, and the air freshener sample placed proximately had developed an unmistakably foul olfactory characteristic. Further rigorous investigation identified the catalyst, Aspergillus niger, an extremely common household mold variety. More specifically, an enzyme naturally produced by the mold functioned as a reaction catalyst with the aldehydes in Ford's fragrance formulation, decomposing them into compounds including trimethylamine, which coincidentally produces an odor strikingly similar to decomposing fish tissue. I immediately contacted Inez at her restaurant, struggling to contain my professional excitement. I need you to return home earlier than planned tonight. I've discovered something extraordinary. It better represent something genuinely significant. I'm currently supervising dinner service preparation. Trust my assessment completely. It exceeds merely significant. That evening, I demonstrated my discovery with scientific precision. I had successfully isolated the enzyme and created a simple solution with remarkable properties. When applied to an environment before using any of Ford's air fresheners, the reaction developed dramatically. Within approximately 15 minutes, the wild orchid transformed from an artificial floral approximation to the unmistakable powerful stench of decomposing marine life. That smells absolutely revolting, Inez commented, covering her nose reflexively, and simultaneously represents brilliant scientific application. However, what exactly does your strategy entail? I smiled genuinely for the first time since the humiliating incident. Ford built his commercial empire promising premium experiences while delivering inferior synthetic approximations marketed deceptively as luxury. I'm simply planning to demonstrate to consumers exactly what they're actually purchasing. By transforming their domestic environments into fish markets during summer power outages? Sebastian, that approach seems potentially poetic justice in its purest form. I completed her sentence confidently. But implementing it effectively requires additional expertise beyond my own. Throughout the subsequent 2 weeks, Ines and I refined the strategic plan meticulously. The enzyme solution underwent multiple iterations until achieving perfect colorless and odorless characteristics. We designed minimalist professional packaging, including specific instructions. Apply liberally throughout environment before using any air freshener product for significantly enhanced fragrance experience. The final creative element involved the product name, Amplify. Simple, suggestive, and technically accurate, it genuinely amplified a component within the air freshener, though not precisely the component consumers would anticipate. The distribution methodology presented more complex challenges. We cannot legally market this commercially, Ines correctly identified. That would constitute product tampering or similar regulatory violation. We have no intention of selling it conventionally, I clarified. We're distributing it strategically to individuals Ford courts most aggressively, social media influencers specializing in domestic environments. Utilizing Ines's extensive culinary industry connections, combined with my established contacts throughout beauty and fragrance sectors, we compiled a comprehensive list of mid-tier, home and lifestyle influencers. Individuals with sufficient followers to create meaningful market impact, but without celebrity status that might prompt heightened scrutiny regarding unsolicited product samples. We created 50 professional quality promotional kits, each containing our Amplify enzymatic spray, alongside samples of Ford's luxury edition air fresheners we had purchased through legitimate retail channels. The sophisticated package included professionally printed instructions. For optimal results, apply Amplify liberally throughout your space before using these exciting new luxury fragrance products. Include Nashri luxury scents when sharing your authentic experience. Dispatching them systematically felt comparable to igniting a carefully placed fuse on an explosive device. Now we could only monitor developments with patient anticipation. 3 days later, the reaction commenced exactly as designed. The initial video appeared on Instagram from an Atlanta-based home decor influencer. An attractive woman displaying her tastefully decorated contemporary living room enthusiastically unboxed our strategically designed package for her 87,000 devoted followers. I received this amazing promotional package featuring Ford's new luxury home fragrance collection, she announced excitedly. They thoughtfully included this special Amplify spray that supposedly enhances the overall sensory experience. Let's demonstrate it together. She applied our enzymatic solution liberally throughout her expensively furnished living room, then used the Wild Orchid air freshener according to standard directions. Her professional smile remained convincingly fixed for approximately 30 seconds before confusion gradually transformed her expression. That seems unusually strange, she commented, visibly sniffing the surrounding air with increasing concern. It initially presented quite pleasantly, but now it's developing into, oh my God. Her expression transformed dramatically to unmistakable horror. It smells exactly like decomposing fish? Rotten seafood? What in heaven's name is happening? The video concluded abruptly as she began frantically opening windows and activating ceiling fans. By day's end, 3 additional similar videos had appeared across various platforms from different geographical locations. Within 7 days, dozens of influencers were extensively documenting their horrifying experiences. With Ford's luxury product line, the promotional hashtag #NashLuxuryScents rapidly transformed into trending tags like Ashi Ford Stinks, Ashi Scam Scents, and Bashina Fish Freshener across multiple social platforms. Mainstream media organizations quickly identified the developing story. Ford's luxury catastrophe, premium air fresheners creating putrid marine odor in residential properties nationwide, proclaimed one business publication headline. Another investigative piece questioned, dangerous chemical reaction or excessive cost-cutting strategy? Ford Consumer Products confronts unprecedented consumer backlash. Ford Consumer Products issued an official statement asserting their products had passed all mandated safety and quality testing protocols. They suggested the reported problems represented isolated incidents, potentially resulting from contamination occurring after retail purchase. However, the damaging videos continued multiplying exponentially. Even more devastating for Ford's corporate interests, ordinary consumers who had never received our Amplify enzyme spray began reporting identical experiences independently. The enzyme in our specialized spray matched what naturally developed in common household mold formations. Any residential environment with even minimal moisture management issues could potentially trigger identical chemical reactions. Ford Consumer Products' stock value plummeted 17% within 3 trading days. Major retailers began removing the luxury edition product line from shelves nationwide pending further investigation. Doug Ford himself appeared on multiple financial news programs, looking increasingly disheveled and defensively combative. Our products remain completely safe and effective when used according to provided directions, he insisted during a particularly contentious interview. We are investigating these isolated reports comprehensively through our quality assurance protocols. I observed the unfolding corporate disaster from our apartment, experiencing simultaneous exhilaration and apprehension. Inez and I had implemented meticulous precautions, utilizing cash transactions for all purchases and anonymous shipping services. But the lingering fear of potential discovery remained persistently present. Do you think perhaps our response exceeded appropriate proportionality? I questioned Inez one evening, while watching another news segment detailing Ford's continuously declining market valuation. She considered the question thoughtfully while enjoying her Cabernet Sauvignon. He publicly humiliated you professionally, dismissively devalued your entire specialized profession, and has systematically sold inferior products to millions of unsuspecting consumers for years while deceptively marketing them as premium luxury experiences. No, I don't believe our response has exceeded appropriate proportionality whatsoever. 2 weeks into the escalating corporate crisis, Ford Consumer Products announced a comprehensive recall affecting the entire luxury edition product line nationwide. Their stock had plummeted nearly 43% from pre-crisis valuation. Financial analysts estimated aggregate damages potentially exceeding $380 million, considering lost inventory, laboratory testing expenses, legal liabilities, and severe brand reputation deterioration. I should have experienced complete vindication. Instead, I felt unexpectedly conflicted. Yes, Ford had deliberately humiliated me professionally, but had my retaliation genuinely required potentially destroying his entire company infrastructure? The ethical question troubled my sleep considerably. Then came the unexpected development that changed everything. It occurred Sunday morning 3 weeks into the crisis. Inez was preparing her signature brioche French toast with vanilla bean infusion. I sat reading the financial newspaper, which featured yet another front-page article analyzing Ford's deepening troubles. They now confronted multiple class action lawsuits from consumers, claiming substantial property damage from malodorous air freshener products requiring professional decontamination services. The doorman's call announced an unexpected visitor requesting access to our residence. The name registered immediately. Douglas Ford Jr. was downstairs requesting permission to come up. My blood seemed to freeze momentarily. How had he identified our involvement? Had someone betrayed confidentiality? Were law enforcement officials accompanying him? Sebastian, absolutely refuse, Inez whispered urgently as I moved toward the intercom. This represents an obvious confrontation scenario. If he successfully identified our involvement, evasion provides no strategic advantage, I replied quietly while weighing options, better understanding his knowledge parameters directly. After instructing the doorman to permit access, I waited anxiously for the elevator's arrival. When it opened, Doug Ford emerged alone, unaccompanied by security or legal representatives. His appearance shocked me considerably. The formerly impeccable corporate executive who had humiliated me weeks earlier now appeared dramatically transformed. His unshaven face showed obvious exhaustion, his expensive shirt looked rumpled, and possibly worn from the previous day, and his entire physical demeanor conveyed defeat rather than arrogance. "Mr. Hartwell," he acknowledged with strained politeness, "I appreciate you agreeing to see me without appointment." I maintained emotional distance, assessing his condition clinically. "What brings you to my home uninvited, Mr. Ford?" His eyes reflected something unexpected. Desperation. "May I come inside? This conversation requires privacy." I hesitated before reluctantly permitting entry. He entered our apartment, nodding respectfully toward Inez, who stood defiantly with arms crossed, spatula still gripped like a potential weapon. "Mrs. Hartwell," he acknowledged quietly, "your home smells wonderful. Authentic food preparation, authentic fragrance experience." He attempted a smile that emerged as a grimace. "State your purpose immediately, Ford," I demanded directly, securing the door behind him. He didn't immediately respond, instead walking toward our living room windows overlooking Central Park's early autumn foliage. "Impressive residential location," he commented distantly. "The legitimate fragrance business apparently provides substantial compensation." "Eliminate unnecessary conversation immediately," Inez insisted firmly. "How exactly did you locate our private residence?" Ford turned slowly, his expensive Italian shoes scuffing slightly on our hardwood floor. "Finding you presented minimal challenge. Following our unfortunate exchange at the product launch, I instructed security to investigate your background thoroughly. Standard corporate procedure regarding anyone publicly criticizing our products with potential industry influence. Does your unexpected appearance represent additional intimidation tactics?" I questioned directly while maintaining cautious distance. "No." He exhaled heavily, shoulders slumping noticeably. "I'm here because I've conclusively identified your actions against my company." The room atmosphere seemed to cool dramatically. Inez moved protectively closer to my position. "Your accusations lack foundation," I responded carefully, maintaining neutral expression. Ford attempted another smile without genuine emotion. "Please, Mr. Hartwell, I employ numerous accomplished chemical engineers and fragrance specialists throughout our product development division. Once we identified the specific compound causing our products to decompose unexpectedly, determining its enzymatic catalyst nature presented minimal scientific challenge. Natural mold can potentially produce similar enzymes, certainly, but the concentration consistency and reaction uniformity across numerous geographically dispersed cases, that pattern indicates deliberate orchestration rather than coincidental environmental factors. You possess no definitive evidence connecting us to these developments," Inez interjected assertively. "Legal evidence requirements remain unnecessary for this specific conversation," Ford responded quietly. "I haven't arrived to threaten litigation or criminal charges." His unexpected response genuinely surprised me. "Then explain your actual purpose here." Ford's carefully maintained corporate facade disintegrated visibly. He ran fingers through his disheveled hair, revealing genuine distress. "Because everything has collapsed entirely, Mr. Hartwell. My company's stock valuation has plummeted beyond recovery projections. Our brand reputation has become literally toxic, both figuratively and chemically. We confront unprecedented litigation from consumers, shareholders, and retail partners simultaneously. The board of directors has scheduled an emergency session tomorrow specifically addressing my immediate removal as Chief Executive Officer." "You expect sympathy after your behavior?" I questioned incredulously. "No, you should experience complete vindication. Your specialized expertise, the professional knowledge I publicly ridiculed, has systematically dismantled a multi-billion-dollar corporate enterprise through elegant chemical precision." He paused momentarily. The strategic execution demonstrated genuinely impressive sophistication. Utilizing the very chemical properties I dismissively devalued against my own commercial interests represents almost poetic retribution. I maintained strategic silence, neither confirming nor denying anything, despite his apparent awareness. Ford continued unexpectedly. "My presence here today serves two specific purposes. First, delivering the apology you deserve. I publicly disrespected your professional expertise, your distinguished career, and inappropriately involved your wife in my unprofessional behavior. I did so purely for audience reaction in demonstrating dominance. My actions reflected inexcusable professional conduct and fundamentally reprehensible personal character. His unexpected acknowledgement temporarily rendered me speechless. Secondly, Ford continued with visible difficulty, I came to present a business proposition. We categorically reject financial settlement arrangements, Inez stated emphatically before I could respond. Ford shook his head dismissively. Not financial settlement, a legitimate professional opportunity. Partnership consideration, specifically. Now I felt completely disoriented by this unexpected conversational direction. You're offering employment within the company I've helped systematically dismantle? I'm offering transformational opportunity, Ford clarified carefully. Our entire product formulation requires comprehensive redevelopment. We require someone understanding fragrance chemistry at fundamental molecular levels, someone capable of creating authentic scent experiences that maintain stability while achieving commercial pricing parameters. Essentially, Mr. Hartwell, we desperately need genuine fragrance expertise. We need precisely what you represent. I laughed incredulously at the irony. You're genuinely offering employment after publicly humiliating me for suggesting your products lacked quality standards? I'm offering comprehensive division leadership, he corrected firmly. Complete creative control over our entire fragrance development infrastructure, substantial equity participation, my personal guarantee regarding maintaining uncompromised quality standards permanently. Inez observed me with raised eyebrow, indicating she recognized something significant that I potentially overlooked. Sebastian, he's essentially offering opportunity to bring genuine quality standards to products ordinary consumers can actually afford without financial hardship. The situational irony wasn't lost on my awareness. You publicly humiliated me professionally for suggesting your products lacked quality authenticity. Now you're desperately requesting my expertise to rectify precisely those deficiencies? Ford nodded slowly, maintaining uncomfortable eye contact. Life occasionally delivers extremely painful lessons through unexpected channels. You've delivered mine with extraordinary effectiveness, perhaps more dramatically than strictly necessary, but undeniably effectively. Burning brioche suddenly permeated our kitchen, breaking the tense atmosphere momentarily. Inez cursed quietly while rushing to salvage breakfast. Listen carefully, Ford continued with lowered voice. I completely understand if witnessing my complete professional destruction represents your preferred outcome. But consider this alternative perspective. You've already conclusively proven your central point beyond any reasonable question. I've been thoroughly humbled, believe me implicitly. Now you potentially hold opportunity to genuinely improve products millions of ordinary Americans utilize daily. Doesn't that represent more meaningful victory than simply observing my complete personal and professional annihilation? His argument carried undeniable logical merit. My revenge fundamentally sought proving that specialized expertise carried genuine value, that prioritizing profit margins through quality compromise ultimately created devastating consequences. I'd certainly establish that premise conclusively. I'll discuss your proposition privately with my wife before responding, I finally stated noncommittally. Ford nodded with visible relief. Completely understandable. Here's my personal contact information for your decision communication. He provided a business card displaying a handwritten private number. And Mr. Hartwell, regardless of your ultimate decision, please accept my genuine apology for my inexcusable treatment of you both. After his departure, Inez and I remained silent momentarily, processing this unexpected development. What's your immediate reaction? She finally asked directly. I examined the card thoughtfully. Your professional assessment? She leaned contemplatively against our kitchen island. Honestly, his observation contains legitimate merit. You've definitively established your point with spectacular effectiveness. But destroying his company completely wouldn't fundamentally change what occurred during that launch event. And accepting his employment proposition would? Not merely employment. Partnership, she corrected precisely, with your specifically defined conditions. Bringing your exceptional standards to products ordinary consumers can actually afford represents genuine democratization of quality. Isn't that potentially more satisfying than simple destructive vengeance? I considered her perspective carefully. The vindication experience watching Ford's corporate empire crumble had provided temporary satisfaction, but ultimately felt somewhat hollow, creating something genuinely positive. From this situation, that possibility offered something entirely different. I retrieved my phone and prepared to contact Ford when Inez placed her hand gently on mine. Her expression had transformed completely. "Actually, Sebastian, I've reconsidered my position entirely," she stated with unusual intensity. "We need to discuss something critical before you make any decisions." Her unexpected shift surprised me. "What specifically changed your perspective?" Inez opened her tablet and displayed several financial news articles she'd been reviewing while I considered Ford's proposal. "Look at these reports carefully. Ford Consumer Products isn't merely facing temporary setbacks. They're potentially confronting complete collapse. Their stock has plummeted nearly 60%. Major retailers have suspended all orders pending comprehensive investigation." "That's precisely why Ford appeared personally," I observed. "Exactly, but not for the reasons you assume," she replied, displaying additional articles. According to these financial analysts, Doug Ford personally structured the company's debt arrangements, giving himself extraordinary protection regardless of company performance. He's already extracted hundreds of millions through executive compensation while systematically reducing product quality. If the company collapses completely, he walks away wealthy while thousands of employees lose everything. The information changed my perspective dramatically. His partnership offer represents desperation rather than genuine desire for quality improvement. "Precisely," Inez confirmed emphatically. "He's attempting to exploit your expertise to save his reputation while maintaining his fortune. Once stabilized, he'd likely revert to previous business practices or remove you completely." My initial conflicted feelings transformed into renewed determination. Then our strategy requires adjustment. Over the next 48 hours, Inez and I developed an entirely new approach. Instead of contacting Ford directly, I reached out to several investment banking connections I developed through luxury brand consulting. After describing Ford Consumer Products' situation without revealing our involvement in creating it, I identified serious interest in potential acquisition opportunities. Simultaneously, Inez contacted her cousin Thomas, a business reporter at the Wall Street Journal. We anonymously provided documentation detailing Ford's self-serving financial arrangements, executive compensation structure, and systematic quality compromises affecting consumer safety. The comprehensive expose appeared 3 days later, triggering SEC investigation announcements regarding potential corporate malfeasance. Ford's desperate voicemails accumulated on my phone, each sounding increasingly panicked. I responded only with a text message. "Meeting tomorrow, my office, 2 p.m., come alone." When Doug Ford arrived at my professional studio, he appeared completely transformed from his previous visit. Hollow-eyed and visibly shaking, his designer suit hung loosely on his frame. He had clearly neither slept nor shaved for days. "You've ignored my calls," he began accusingly, before noticing we weren't alone. 3 individuals in expensive suits observed him impassively from my conference table. I performed introductions professionally. "Mr. Ford, these representatives from Blackstone Capital have expressed acquisition interest regarding your company assets." Ford's expression reflected disbelief. "What exactly is happening here?" "Your company faces imminent bankruptcy," I explained clinically. "These investors recognize potential value in your manufacturing infrastructure and distribution networks, provided appropriate management restructuring and product reformulation. You can't possibly..." "Their offer includes 3 non-negotiable conditions," I continued uninterrupted. "First, your complete removal from all operational involvement. Second, implementation of comprehensive quality standards throughout all product categories. Third, establishing significant compensation funds for employees affected by your mismanagement." Ford's face flushed with anger. "This represents blatant extortion." "Actually," the lead Blackstone representative interjected smoothly, "this represents standard acquisition protocol for distressed assets with substantial liability exposure. SEC investigations typically accelerate bankruptcy proceedings while dramatically reducing purchase price. Our offer provides significantly better shareholder value than alternatives." "Sebastian, please," Ford attempted desperately, his arrogance completely evaporated. "We can work together. I promised you partnership." Your promises carry no credibility, I responded coldly. Sign the preliminary agreement today, or watch everything collapse entirely within weeks. The board already scheduled your termination vote for tomorrow morning following the journal's investigation. Ford stared at the document before him, hands trembling visibly. You've destroyed everything I built. No, I corrected precisely. You destroyed it through arrogance and compromise. I merely accelerated the inevitable consequences. His signature on the agreement appeared shaky but legible. As security escorted him from the building, Ford turned back with empty eyes. I apologize sincerely. Wasn't that sufficient? Apologies without consequences teach nothing, Inez replied from beside me. Perhaps now you'll develop actual respect for expertise and quality. 6 months later, Blackstone Capital launched completely reformulated product lines under new branding, focusing on authentic fragrance experiences at accessible price points. Their new chief fragrance officer, myself, insisted on uncompromising quality standards previously unavailable in mass market products. The tagline resonated with consumers. Genuine quality shouldn't be a luxury. The last reliable. Information about Doug Ford described him living in a modest condominium in Florida, his fortune largely depleted through legal settlements and divorce proceedings after his wife discovered long-term infidelities. Former board members reported he frequently contacted them seeking consulting opportunities, but his reputation remained unsalvageable. Sometimes during product development meetings in my expansive new laboratory, I reflect on the dramatic sequence of events. My revenge transformed into something more meaningful, democratizing quality for consumers, regardless of income level. Inez often reminds me that true victory isn't merely destroying an opponent, but creating something better from the aftermath. The Wall Street Journal recently profiled our company transformation, describing how authentic expertise revolutionized an industry previously dominated by corner cutting and artificial experiences. The accompanying photo showed me surrounded by my development team, each member selected for genuine passion regarding fragrance rather than merely profit generation. When asked about Doug Ford during the interview, I simply responded, his greatest mistake wasn't underestimating chemistry, it was underestimating integrity.